Well, good morning, John. It's a pleasure to have you joining us today for recording for these collective voices around people who have a lived experience of a survived attempt of suicide. How are you going today?
Not too bad, Tynan. How's yourself?
I'm going pretty good, thanks, mate. Look, it's great to have you joining us today, and yeah, sharing your insights and your lived experience to create some valuable resources for other people out there with a lived experience of suicide. To
hmm
start off today, just wondering if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about your own lived experience of suicide.
Well, yeah. Uh, my first ever attempt was at 14.
Hmm.
I had two attempts at 14, actually. Uh, One was family related because my father, was not really a father. And the other one was bullies at school.
And did, did
Um,
they did they both happen around the same time, like your dad
yeah,
and the bullying?
yeah, well, my dad uh, had a history of what would be classed today as neglect of me and my sisters, but he treated my sisters better than he did myself, of course. Number one son being defective, as it turns out.
Hmm.
So yeah, um, yeah. So that that's basically the underlying stuff is
Hmm.
is a lot of family trauma and a lot of bullying at school because I wasn't a full quid even though I went to a normal school. Yeah.
And yet you mentioned you had your first attempt at the age of 14,
Yeah.
and you sort of gave us a little bit of context around bullying and your dad not being the best dad for you. Just wondering what was going on with life? Like, what was life like for you? What were you doing? Like,
Life was, oh, you know, to me it was normal, but to someone else that was looking from the outside, it was somewhat traumatic, I guess. But
mhm,
you know, it did have an effect on me because it was sort of like one particular comment he used quite regularly was "you're useless." Uh, Another one was "oh, don't do that. You don't know how to do it." Basically,
mm.
you know,
And was it it
it's
was what role did those comments sort of have on you?
oh, blimey, they were negative. I mean, I never tried anything new. Uh, I never experienced what I'd class as a proper childhood anyway. It's just, I never had a chance to be with a father as a mentor. He was a father as an abuser, not a mentor.
Yeah, every boy deserves to have sort of that mentor role in their life.
Yeah.
Just wondering, like, when you sort of say you had your first attempt at the age of 14, did you try and reach out for help around like what was going on in your mind, or what was happening in your mind?
Uh, no.
Mhm.
I didn't reach out because I didn't feel comfortable with anybody.
Mhm.
Um, I was very, very introverted.
Mhm.
I didn't trust a man, let alone another adult, because, you know, my family life is, oh, my parents were just there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What
So,
do you
yeah.
think you would have? What do you think would have you needed at those moments in life from
Accept,
from
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry,
acceptance?
Tynan. Acceptance is a big one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Understanding is another one. Uh, him to look at me as if to say, okay, well, you're a little bit behind, but I can help you through it. He didn't show that time, maybe because he came from a broken family himself.
Mm.
I mean, I can't excuse the guy, but I can certainly understand it considering his childhood and background.
That's a pretty humble perspective to be able to take. Like you don't forgive it, but you can sort of understand it in those moments. But when you say you wanted acceptance and in the space, did you what do you mean by that? Acceptance for who you are or acceptance of what?
Acceptance of myself and my abilities at the time. I
Mhm,
mean, I'm a lot better now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you because I had problems with language. I had problems with coordination and all the rest. So,
mhm,
I'm a lot better now.
mhm. And what
So,
was life like for you after you had like those attempts at the age of 14?
oh, I mean, well, one particular one, the second attempt, he was prone to giving me drunken haircuts,
Mhm.
crew cuts actually, and he was quite brutal with them because he was three-quarters tanked when he was doing it. And after I had my attempt, he just didn't do it anymore.
You stopped cutting your hair.
He stopped cutting my hair. Yeah. Um,
Did your family know that you had your attempts?
I think they suspected it, mate, but it's I come from a generation where if it's not talked about, it's not recognized, if you know what I mean.
Mhm,
So I'm pretty sure with the first attempt he would have been told,
mhm.
but second attempt, excuse me, it was like very, very personal. Like, you know, I to give you an idea, I am very single-minded, and I was extremely single-minded because I just shut down and I just went through with it, both attempts. There was no emotion, no thought, nothing. It was just a blank space that I was walking into.
Coming on the other side of your attempt, what happened to that blank space that you felt like you were walking into?
When I was coming out of it, um, I was I wasn't looking forward to the day. Let's put it that way. I
Mhm.
was very, very, very negative, very cold, and just walked away with a voice in my head saying, "Well, it's another failure." That's how I came out of that one. Anyway, both of those was, it didn't come off. I was still breathing, so I'm a failure. That was that was the only thing that was going through my head at the time, Tyner. Yeah.
What shifted in your life? Like I've had the privilege of sharing many conversations with you over probably the last year or so, and you're a man who's got a lot of determination, who shows resilience, and you've really got a passion for the space of suicide prevention. What shifted? Like, if you can think back to then, what shifted throughout your life to have you as the man you are today?
Well, what shifted for me, mate, was I suppose forgave my parents very early in my life. And I thought, well, okay, if if you can't help me, I will seek help outside. like join organizations that were there to build myself up, to give me some sense of achievement, to show me how other people really functioned.
Hmm.
Um, Basically, just
That's a
sorry,
that's a
mate.
really big that's a really big step for someone to take at a young age to really challenge the narrative around home life is a place where you can have that nourishment and that support for you to sort of get to a place where you go, I'm not going to get that from home. I'm going to have to go elsewhere. Just wondering, were there examples of that around you that you could see through friends or other
Not really.
interactions you had in life?
Not really, because up until about 19, I didn't have a life outside of home. Uh, to make matters worse, my father was also my boss. So, you know, that's a tricky one. 24 hours a day of abuse is a little bit hard to take sometimes.
Mm, definitely. So what was it like for you when you came to that place where you forgave your parents and you thought, okay, I'm going to have to seek outside to get the support and get the encouragement that you needed in life? Like, what was that like for you to? And I'm just wondering if you could take us through the first time that you did that, or in the weeks, months, years of you seeking outside help. If you could just talk us through what that was like for you.
Oh man, it was liberating, Tynan. It was liberating.
Mm,
Um, I could see the outside world. I didn't have the encumbrance of somebody in the background going, "You're useless," or anything else, or "Don't try that. It doesn't look all
mhm,
right for you." Um, I had to stand on my own 2 feet, and that I think is what has given me the tools to progress in life
mhm,
and sort of fill in the gaps. Basically, that's all I was trying to do. It took me, let's see, I started about 19, joined the Scouts um, in 1985. There was an opportunity to join a council youth committee, so I did that.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, and other things along the way all fell into place, and I just gradually pieced it together.
mhm.
I mean, it was heartbreaking at times because while I was growing up, I had a hatred of my gender
Mhm.
because if I was to, you know, uh, my mentor was an abuser, and I didn't want to be an abuser when I grew up, so I hated my gender. That was the one drawback, but I managed to fight through that, and through various organizations, I built my confidence level up to a point where I could function sort of normally.
Mhm.
Ah,
Thanks for sharing. It's a really powerful story of someone who's come from an upbringing that really was around disempowering you, but somewhere in the midst of that, you found the courage and the motivation to seek outside. Where do you think that came from? Like that inner voice that must have shifted somewhere on the line. Where do you think the inner voice came, and what was the inner voice saying to you at those times when you sort of gave up, or not gave up, but you forgave your parents?
when I forgave my parents, let's see, uh, I the inner voice came from just wanting to have a better life and seeing that not everybody had abusive parents, so maybe I could change my viewpoint. and my perspective. So,
Mhm.
uh, um, because yeah, around school and places like that, primary school, I had everything was a breeze.
Mhm.
But as I grew up, the bullying and the other stuff just got worse, and it steamrolled. Yeah, it rolled into a big ball
Mhm.
to a point where I couldn't avoid it. So yeah, not
So
yeah.
when you
Sorry.
started to when you started to connect with the scouts and connect with the other groups like post 19, what did that do to like your thoughts of suicide and things like that? How did that counteract that, or what role did it have?
Uh, it didn't counteract it, Tyne, and I
Mhm.
still have suicidal ideations even today.
Mhm.
But I know there's a better place. So, every 5 years I have a reboot, and that involves how can I put it? I go back over the last 5 years, look for the tiniest bright spark, and if I find one, I have a reason to carry on for the next 5 years.
What's your current spark? Like last time you had a reboot and you reflected, what was the spark that you've grabbed hold of?
My daughter coming back into my life and my two grandsons. They're my spark this time. Yeah, my daughter coming back into my life. We share a house.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was a biggie for me. We're sort of bouncing off each other to keep each other on a nice level playing field, and I have contact with my two grandsons, so I'm a very happy bloke at the moment.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that. That's happening in your life at the moment. Where you are at the moment, and you sort of just spoke about you reboot every 5 years. If you were to reflect on like your lived experience of suicide, so having non-fatal attempts and living with thoughts of suicide, what role does your lived experience of suicide play in your life, or how does it play out in your life?
Oh, gee, I'm very empathic, uh, very direct with people. If I
Mhm.
don't like them, I tell them straight away. So, you, you know,
Well,
but
I'm thankful you've never told me you don't like me, so that's good.
no, that's well and truly off the table with you, Ton, and it's all right. But it and my level of empathy um is fantastic. I think I don't have a bad thing to say about most people unless they brown me off,
Mhm.
and that takes a lot. So I'd say my tolerance level is a lot uh beyond most people.
Mhm.
Uh,
So when you like as you move forward now in life and the work that you're wanting to do and the message that you're sharing today, I'm just wondering, like, what is your message for people with a lived experience of suicide? Like, if someone's going through having thoughts of suicide today, or if someone's just had a non-fatal attempt, what's your message for them?
It doesn't get better,
Mhm.
but you're the only person that can change that. You're the only person that can change your life. You're the only one that can change your focus. You're the only one that can seek out and put yourself there and say, hey guys, look, I'm not comfortable with this, and start a direct communication with people that have probably led you to it, or people that have a direct influence on the way things can change. You got to start that direct communication, and be open with people and say, hey guys, look, I know you don't want to talk about this, but I'm really, really unhappy, really, really angry, or whatever. Because communication is the key.
for communicating about it. And you sort of highlight a valuable point that people may feel alone and they may feel like it's all on them. And I guess your message around that, like what are reflecting on, is that it's hard to start, but once you start, there's people around you that can help you on your journey.
Yeah. I mean, it takes baby steps to start with, but you can make a heck of a difference at the end of the journey.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What's your place? Like, what do you want your role to be in suicide prevention for the next 5 years until you have your next reboot? Like, what do you want to have
I'm
in that
due for,
space?
yeah, I'm due for my next reboot at 65.
Mhm,
Uh, by that stage, I hope to be either in a mentoring role, a either a counseling role, write a book, start a podcast,
mhm,
uh, network, or at least put together a network of all the mental health organizations in my area.
mhm,
Oh, blimey. But the podcast is really interesting to me,
mhm.
really
Talk to me
interesting.
a bit about that. Like, what do you hope to get through that, and what sort of, I guess, what sort of angle do you want to take by podcasting?
Podcasting, I don't want it to be just information. I don't want it to be just, another website. It has to be inspiring.
Mhm,
Um, I would envisage something along the lines of manfulness as a tag for it,
mhm,
which is taking on board the 5 principles of the men's table for how to get a healthy masculinity, and things like that. I I don't want to hear. I don't want to concentrate on the fact that life's shit at the moment. Pardon the
mhm,
French. I don't want to concentrate on that. I want to concentrate on the fact that, hey, you're in control. Start taking hold of the steering wheel.
mhm. Have you had any experiences in life where you've connected with someone and you've been able to help them on their journey?
Uh, my daughter, as an example,
Hmm.
she had a bad experience with the person she lived with, and she was very distraught. So I said, come and live with me for a weekend, see how you feel at the end of it. And she's still here. So maybe that was the key. Because we talk, we're very open about our feelings.
Hmm.
And maybe that's what's needed. It's worked for us. I'm not saying it'll work for everybody,
Hmm.
because they don't have the same circumstances, but there are similarities in everything.
And that's a very beautiful, reflective contrast to the upbringing that you described, where things were closed off. You weren't able to talk about things, and things were. I think what you said, if it's not spoken about, it didn't happen. And
Yeah.
you've now created this environment with your own family that you can have an open dialogue, and there's comfort there, and that there's trust and respect to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful thing to reflect on, mate, and I'm super proud of you for being able to do that. It's yeah, it's nice to
But
hear that.
I don't feel like I'm anyone special, Tynan. I'm just a bloke that wants to get on in life and in his world.
Mhm.
Um, it's just crazy. I mean, I I've seen what life's like. It can be shite at times, right? And most times it is. But why cry about it when in your universe you can make changes?
Who's been the most positive influence for you in your life?
Blimey, if I had to say one person, I, I mean, there's been so many. There was a school teacher while I was a scout leader. He was a brilliant person. A couple of scout leaders. Uh, I the deputy mayor of the Mackay City Council.
Mhm.
She was a nice person too. So she
What sort of impact did she have on your life?
she showed me compassion. She showed me that, yeah, this guy's got something he can contribute. So, at the at that time I was feeling exceptionally lost actually, because I was in the middle of knowing what life's like and trying to balance that with a home life, if you
Mhm.
know what I mean. Uh, so yeah,
What's your proudest moment?
my proudest moment, holding my daughter and my son, are my proudest moments in life.
And what do you hope for the future for your kids and your grandkids? Like, what do you hope the world becomes, or what are you going to try and influence their world to be?
I am starting with my grandkids now. If they need to talk, that they know that they can come to me.
Mhm.
Uh, what I hope is that, right, suicide and everything else like that, all the bad stuff is no longer taboo. All the bad stuff is put into its right context, and people start loving their families and their children again, and
Mhm.
being with their families. Blokes having time for their kids and not stuck at work. Um, Mums not looking at, throwing the kid the phone when it's annoying her, giving it a cuddle and saying, "Hey, guy, it's all cool." We've lost that. Uh, we've lost our humanity because of society.
Mhm.
That's my opinion anyway. So I'm sticking to it.
When you talk about trying to help make suicide not be taboo anymore, how do you see, like, what do you see your role in that, or how do we encourage people to not make it taboo?
Right. Um, I think we need to, uh, pardon the generalization, look at it as we do life and death. because suicide is, if anything, is, from my experience, is it's a choice we make to finish things, a choice not to suffer anymore. So it's more or less like assisted dying. So there's no, the only reason probably we had suicide down as taboo was because it was such a frightening thing. We're looking at, that person ending their life and losing all the potential that they could have had to achieve something for themselves. I think that's the only thing for me anyway. I mean, it should never have been taboo. It will never come up once we get into the habit of communicating with our kids, showing love, nurturing, and all the rest. That won't happen or shouldn't happen after that.
It's a big step and a big shift in society, and it's a yeah. I mean, a world without suicide, a world where we can hold space and have conversations, and people can feel comfortable to share that, as you put it, like life can be crap and life can be really hard, and a place that we just want to run from. And
Mm.
yeah, look, I hope that we get there too. What would you be your message for people out there? Like, what role do you see them playing in suicide prevention? Just the everyday person.
Just the everyday person. Walk down the street, smile at somebody, hold space with them for 5 seconds. That's all it will take. There's no sense of community anymore, no sense of humanity. Everybody's in it to either survive or get ahead for themselves. This is my view of the world anyway. But you know, we are the ones that can fix it. The normal people have to start being, we have to humanize ourselves again. Get our faces away from the phones and the tablets, and just look at a person and see how long it takes them to smile when you smile at them. Not say a word, just smile.
A lot of people get uncomfortable in those moments, and the rush,
Oh,
like
yeah,
the natural tentative to just speak or to turn away. Yeah,
yeah.
but holding space for people is a beautiful gift that you can give anyone. And you've touched on it as well throughout this, and you mentioned it a couple of times, compassion. And you won't hurt anyone by being compassionate towards them, no matter who
No,
they are.
no matter who they are. You might get some weird looks,
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
especially if you go up to someone and you say, hey, you try and engage further and you say, hey, can I help you?
Mhm.
Or is this something I can do for you, mate? Especially if they're in a wheelchair and they've dropped something in front of them or something like that. You
Mhm.
just go over and pick it up, or at least ask them first if they're going to go, oh, what are they going to do next?
Mhm. Yeah. If we were to reflect on your life and the journey that you've been on since like your first lived experience of suicide, and even now living with thoughts of suicide, is there a question that you've never been asked that you would like to be asked around your own journey?
Oh, blimey. Is there a question? Big one, I'd say, is how? How have you managed to get through it?
How have you managed?
I don't know, Tynan. Really, I don't. It's just through sheer determination
Mhm.
and an understanding of around the corner, there's always a better place around the corner.
Yeah. I would say reflecting on the conversation we've had today and my interactions with you, when I when I look at you and I hear about your life and the experiences that you've had, that you show a natural tendency to remain optimistic and to look for what else is around. Like despite having some traumatic life events, you still had that tendency to go, is there another way? Is there another way that's out here for me to live and for me to get beyond where I am now? Like you acknowledge that you didn't have it at home and you sorted it out. And it sounds like you still continue to do that today. And your message seems to be around that too, to encourage people to be inquisitive and seek for that compassion. Like there's compassionate people out there, and you're definitely one yourself. And look, I really want to thank you and acknowledge you for your time today and your courage to speak so openly about life, about your lived experience and some of the dark times that you've experienced. But you've also taken us on a journey of hope and optimism, and finding that spark in your life every 5 years sounds like a really nice thing to do. And yeah, I would actually be honest and say I probably do it every 6 years. Like you just have that reflection moment and find what is it that's going to be the spark of my life right now. And yeah, look, I look forward to following your journey, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And I'm sure that you've got a big future in the world of suicide prevention. And yeah, you're an asset to have conversations with. And yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.